The sound of my 5-year-old daughter screaming as the HOA Karen's bike sent her flying will haunt me forever. But when Karen started blaming Emma for the accident, she had no idea my military father was arriving with his entire unit in exactly 3 minutes. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching, also like and subscribe for more Karen's stories. The sound of metal crushing against tiny bones will haunt me forever. But what happened next restored my faith in justice completely. It was 7:30 a.m. on a crisp Saturday morning in Maplewood Heights. My daughter Emma was drawing colorful hopscotch squares on our driveway, her giggles filling the quiet air. At just 5 years old, she had this infectious laugh that could brighten anyone's day. She was the kind of child who waved at every neighbor and believed the whole world was her friend. I was washing my car nearby, stealing glances at my little angel. Emma was especially excited because Grandpa Jim was visiting today. My father, a retired Army colonel, was driving down from the base to spend the weekend with us. Emma had been counting down the days, practicing the salute he taught her. At exactly 7:45 a.m., the peace shattered. Karen Whitfield came racing down the street on her expensive mountain bike, earbuds blasting music so loud I could hear it from 20 feet away. Karen was our neighborhood's self-appointed sheriff who had made our lives miserable for 2 years with her petty complaints and power trips. Last month, she fined us for leaving our trash bin out 30 minutes too long. Before that, she complained about Emma's sidewalk chalk art, calling it property defacement. She even reported my wife for parking 6 inches over our driveway line. But this morning was different. This morning, Karen was about to cross a line that would change everything. Emma was focused on her game, completely absorbed in retrieving her chalk that had rolled toward the sidewalk. That's when I saw Karen speeding toward her, head down, looking at her phone while writing. "Emma, move!" I screamed. Too late. The collision happened in slow motion. Karen's bike slammed into Emma's tiny frame, sending my daughter flying 3 feet through the air. She landed hard on the concrete sidewalk with a sickening thud. Emma's cries pierced the morning silence. Blood pooled beneath her scraped knees and elbows. Her left wrist bent at an unnatural angle as tears streamed down her dirt-stained cheeks. I dropped everything and ran to her, my heart breaking with every step. As I knelt beside Emma, cradling her carefully, Karen was picking herself up from the ground, more concerned about her scratched bike than my injured child. "Look what your kid did to my bike," Karen shouted, brushing dirt off her designer workout clothes. She came out of nowhere. "This is going to cost me hundreds to fix." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My daughter was bleeding on the sidewalk, possibly seriously injured, and this woman was worried about her bike. "Karen, you hit Emma. She needs medical attention," I said, trying to stay calm while checking her injuries. "She shouldn't have been playing so close to the street," Karen snapped. "Kids need to learn to watch where they're going. Besides, she was probably making another mess with that chalk thing again." Something inside me snapped. "Get away from us. Get away from my daughter right now." But Karen wasn't done. She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures of her damaged bike, completely ignoring Emma's cries. "I'm documenting everything for insurance," she announced. "Your family is going to pay for this damage. And I'm calling an emergency meeting about children playing unsupervised in common areas." I carefully lifted Emma in my arms, her small body trembling against my chest. Blood from her scraped palms stained my white t-shirt, but I didn't care. All I cared about was getting her to safety. "Daddy, it hurts," Emma whispered through her tears. "I know, sweetheart. Daddy's going to make it better," I promised, though my own voice was breaking. As I carried Emma toward our house to call an ambulance, Karen blocked our path. "We're not done here," she said coldly. "I want your insurance information. Don't think you can just walk away from this." That's when I heard the most beautiful sound in the world, the rumble of military vehicles approaching. 3 black SUVs with government plates rolled down our street in perfect formation. My father wasn't alone. Behind him came 2 more vehicles filled with his old unit, men he had served with for 30 years, brothers who had fought beside him in 3 different conflicts. The vehicles stopped in perfect synchronization. Car doors opened simultaneously, and out stepped 6 of the most intimidating men you'd ever see. My father, Colonel James Mitchell, led the group. Even at 68, he commanded respect with every step. Behind him came Master Sergeant Rodriguez, a mountain of a man with arms like tree trunks. Sergeant Major Williams, whose stern gaze could stop traffic. Captain Thompson, my father's former aide who now worked at the Pentagon. Staff Sergeant Davis, a Navy SEAL who looked like he could bench press a car. And Lieutenant Colonel Adams, whose chest was covered in medals and ribbons. They weren't in uniform, but everything about them screamed military precision and authority. Emma saw her grandfather and, despite her pain, tried to wave. "Grandpa Jim," she called out weakly. My father's face went from joy to concern to pure rage in about 2 seconds. He quickly assessed the situation. His granddaughter bleeding in my arms, a woman standing over us with a damaged bike, and the tension crackling in the air. What happened to my granddaughter? His voice was calm but carried the authority of someone who had commanded thousands of soldiers. "This woman hit Emma with her bike," I explained. "She's been harassing us and now she's more worried about her bike than Emma's injuries." Karen, oblivious to who she was dealing with, stepped forward defiantly. "Listen, whoever you are, this is a private neighborhood matter. Your granddaughter was playing irresponsibly and caused damage to my property. I make the rules here." The 6 military men exchanged looks. Master Sergeant Rodriguez actually smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Ma'am," my father said with deadly calm, "I suggest you step aside while we tend to the injured child." "I don't take orders from some old man," Karen shot back. "This is my neighborhood and I'm calling the police to report this incident. That little girl is going to learn some responsibility today. That was her biggest mistake. Calling a decorated war hero some old man, while his granddaughter bled, was unforgivable." Captain Thompson, who still worked in military intelligence, had already pulled out his phone. Within 30 seconds he had Karen's full background displayed on his screen. "Karen Elizabeth Whitfield," he read aloud in a voice that carried across the street. "Age 47, married to Robert Whitfield, insurance salesman. 3 previous addresses due to neighbor disputes. 12 formal complaints filed against neighbors in the last 5 years. 2 restraining orders from previous neighborhoods." Karen's face went pale. "How did you?" 2 unpaid speeding tickets, 1 reckless driving charge dismissed on a technicality, and currently under investigation by the State Oversight Committee for misuse of community funds. Now Karen looked terrified. The neighbors who had come out to see the commotion were listening to every word. Staff Sergeant Davis stepped forward. "Ma'am, I've been documenting this entire conversation on video for evidence purposes. Would you like to revise your statement about whose fault this accident was?" Sergeant Major Williams knelt down beside Emma with surprising gentleness. "Hey there, princess. Your grandpa brought some friends to make sure you're okay." Emma managed a small smile through her tears. "Are you soldiers like grandpa?" "We sure are, sweetheart. And we don't let anyone hurt little girls on our watch." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Adams was on his phone with someone important. "Yes, sir. We have a situation involving an injured military family member and civilian negligence." "Yes, sir, we'll need local authorities and medical response." Within minutes, 2 police cars, an ambulance, and a fire truck arrived. But here's the thing about small towns near military bases. Half the first responders were veterans themselves. Officer Martinez, the lead police officer, took one look at the assembled military men and immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "Colonel Mitchell," he said, saluting my father. "What's the situation, sir?" As the paramedics gently examined Emma, Officer Martinez interviewed witnesses. 3 neighbors had seen the entire incident from their windows. All confirmed that Karen was speeding, looking at her phone, and showed no concern for Emma after the collision. Mrs. Patterson from across the street provided security camera footage showing Karen's reckless behavior. Mr. Chin from next door testified about Karen's history of harassment toward our family. But the final blow came from an unexpected source. Captain Thompson's phone rang. After a brief conversation, he walked over to Karen with a grim expression. "Mrs. Whitfield, that was the State Oversight Committee. They've been investigating you for 3 months based on multiple complaints. This incident, combined with witness testimony about your pattern of harassment, has given them grounds to remove you from your position immediately." Karen's face crumbled. "You can't do this. I have rights." "Yes, you do," Officer Martinez said, pulling out his handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent. You're under arrest for reckless endangerment, hit and run, and harassment." Emma's injuries, thankfully, weren't as serious as they initially appeared. A sprained wrist, multiple scrapes, and a mild concussion. The doctors said she'd make a full recovery within a few weeks. That evening, as Emma rested in her hospital bed, all 6 military men visited her. They brought flowers, stuffed animals, and stories of their own adventures. Master Sergeant Rodriguez taught her a special handshake. Sergeant Major Williams showed her pictures of his own granddaughter. Captain Thompson promised to send her postcards from his travels. Emma was the center of attention, giggling and smiling despite her bandages. "Grandpa," she asked my father, Are all soldiers this nice? Only the best ones, princess. And you know what? You're braver than most soldiers I've known. Emma beamed with pride. Karen Whitfield was charged with multiple offenses and sentenced to community service, probation, and mandatory anger management classes. She was also required to pay all medical expenses and damages. The community voted unanimously to remove her from leadership and banned her from holding any position of authority. But the most satisfying part? The new leader was Mrs. Patterson, a kind grandmother who believed neighborhoods should be places where children could play freely and families could live in peace. 6 months later, our street had transformed into everything a neighborhood should be. Children played without fear. Families gathered for barbecues and block parties. The atmosphere of intimidation and pettiness had been replaced with community and kindness. Emma made a full recovery and was back to her cheerful, trusting self. She still drew hopscotch squares on our driveway, but now she had playmates from families no longer afraid of harassment. Every Saturday morning, my father and his military brothers visited. They'd set up lawn chairs and watch Emma play, forming a protective circle around all the neighborhood children. Word had spread that this was a street where children were protected by some very serious men. Karen moved away 3 months after the incident. Her house sold quickly to a young family with twin toddlers who immediately became Emma's new best friends. As I tuck Emma into bed each night, she always asks me to tell her the story of the day Grandpa's army came to save me. She loves hearing about how the bad lady learned that hurting children has consequences, and how good people always come to help when you need them most. But the real lesson isn't about revenge or justice. It's about standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. It's about the power of family, community, and the bonds between people who've served something greater than themselves. My father and his brothers didn't come to our street looking for a fight. They came to visit a granddaughter and ended up defending her honor. In doing so, they reminded everyone present that some things are sacred: the safety of children, the importance of community, and the truth that actions have consequences. Emma learned that there are good people in the world who will protect her. I learned that sometimes the cavalry really does arrive just when you need them most. And Karen Whitfield learned that you should never underestimate the power of a grandfather's love or the loyalty of soldiers who've stood together through decades of service. Some might call it coincidence that my father arrived at exactly the right moment with exactly the right people. I call it divine timing. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the universe makes sure that bullies get exactly what they deserve, and little girls get the justice they need to keep believing the world is a good place. Emma still draws hopscotch squares every Saturday morning. The difference is now she does it surrounded by friends, protected by heroes, and secure in the knowledge that good always triumphs over evil. And every time I see her hop from square to square, giggling with pure joy, I'm reminded that this is what we're really fighting for: the right of children to be children, safe and happy in their own neighborhoods. That's a battle worth winning, every single time.